This is a fox den, and just a few feet away there are scats in the leaf litter. And here's a log that is absolutely covered in fox scat. So it's safe to say there's a lot of fox activity in this forest. But most of the time when I see foxes, it's not actually from interpreting scats and staking out the den, because the birds will tell me everything I need to see foxes with my own eyes. Just like how this robin making alarm calls and this sparrow led me right to this fox that I've now seen dozens of times. And for some strange reason, we're both always randomly trying to cross this footbridge at the exact same time. But as you'll see in today's video, it's really not as random as you might initially think. So today, I'm going to show you 4 birds that are some of the best fox detectors in the forest, and what exactly these birds do that helps you see foxes more often and track them further even after they move beyond your view. So the first time I got to see foxes in action, I was visiting a place called San Juan Island, which is a big grassland habitat with forest edges, very similar to where I am right now. The main difference is that I now live near a river grassland, and on San Juan, it was an oceanside grassland. It was early spring, and I looked up and I saw this fox moving along through the open landscape, and flying along right in front of that fox was a northern harrier, a medium-sized hawk of grasslands and marshes. Basically, as the fox was scaring voles out in front of its movement, this harrier would then pounce down and catch the voles in an absolutely genius hunting strategy. So just by looking for the harrier, it became way easier to find the fox and keep track of it. Now, I've never seen harriers hunting alongside foxes here on this river, but what I have noticed is that whenever there are foxes in this grassy floodplain, I will hear pheasants who make a staccato alarm sound that can be heard from basically anywhere in this whole valley. Whenever I hear that sound coming from the pheasants, it tells me that the fox is moving in this general area, even if I can't directly see it. When I hear these alarms, if I move quietly and position myself at this bridge, I often will see the fox, because this is actually the place where they cross the river. So birds like pheasants and harriers are great for giving you a very general sense of fox activity across big open landscapes, but they don't necessarily tell you exactly where that fox is right now. And that's where some of the smaller songbirds start to come in handy. So right after that fox crosses the bridge, there's a trail running through this little shrubby area that they like to follow on the other side of the river. And whenever the fox enters these shrubby areas, there are sparrows living in there who will pop up to the tops of these shrubs, giving alarm behavior that is much more specific to the exact location of that fox. When I first saw sparrows popcorning up in San Juan Island, the thing that really surprised me is they were often completely silent when they did this. I had always kind of approached bird language from the idea that birds make alarm calls when they sense danger, and it's something that you hear. But the sparrows of San Juan Island really opened my eyes to just how much birds communicate without making any noise. And I found this to be especially true when it comes to sparrows alarming at foxes. Now, in addition to being very common in open landscape, foxes also spend a lot of time in the forest, and this habitat has other types of birds that also really like to keep track of foxes. Like the American robin, one of the most well-known and widely distributed birds in all North America. If you've ever seen a robin suddenly burst up from the forest floor, make a bit of noise, and then just kind of sit there for a while before flying back down or leaving the area, this is a very specific sequence of behavior that robins will do when there's a fox moving at a trotting pace through the forest. If the robin gets caught off guard, you might hear a startled whinnying sound as it flies up, or they may just make a quick tutting sound and a few tail flicks as the fox passes by. But then as soon as the fox is gone, you really won't hear any more alarms until they reach the next area with birds on the ground, which could be a few minutes away depending on the situation. So to put this in context, you might just hear a single outburst of alarm from a robin way over there, followed by silence. Then a few minutes later, you hear another one over there in a completely different spot. And if you keep listening, you can hear a third one ringing out in a line from the first 2 alarms. This sequence is an undeniable clue that you may want to think about exploring that forest and look for signs of foxes like scats, dens, and kill sites. So it's not that robins have one specific call that they always make when there are foxes. They're simply responding to whatever the fox is doing in the moment. And this can range from a startled flight of whinnying sounds to peeks and tuts, all the way to complete silence. And it's for this reason that we still need one more bird that is ultimately going to add all the essential context and give you that confidence to know when foxes are moving just beyond your view. This bird is the blue jay, because blue jays, with their characteristic jay alarm sound that just cuts through the forest soundscape, and just like the robins, they do that whole behavior of flying up and making a brief sound while the fox passes underneath. Blue jays are even a bit more likely to actually follow the fox a little bit and scold them a little bit more than the robins. But the real magic happens when you get the combination of blue jays and robins passing fox alarms back and forth through the forest, because fox alarms become significantly easier to hear when they involve multiple species. So you hear a robin blast off in the distance, and then a couple minutes later you hear blue jays making a sound, and you start to get that sensation of a line being formed between these little eruptions of alarm as the fox moves at a fox pace through that forest. And if you go investigate that line, you start to discover there are signs of fox all along that line. When we put the pieces together, we see that the blue jay is connected to the robin, and the robin is connected to the sparrow, the pheasant, and the harrier. And all of this is wrapped within the context of actual sign that you find from tracking around these lines of alarm. So if you really want to unlock the secret of foxes and the birds who know them, a key action step is going to be learning everything you possibly can about fox behavior. I have another video on fox behavior that covers movement patterns, hunting strategies, and key moments of activity through the day and night. I'll link to that here if you want to go deeper. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.